So as has happened before in the aftermath of gruesome mass shootings, once again this week, two principal and competing narratives have emerged as people try to grasp how such things can happen and what might be done to prevent them. As Amna Nawaz reports, some point to guns, their large numbers, and easy access in this country. Others, often voices on the right, including President Trump yesterday, urge a greater focus on mental health treatment, saying that that could identify potential shooters before they act.
Judy, guns kill an average of 100 people each day in this country. We turn to Jeffrey Swanson. He's a professor of psychiatry and behavioral science at Duke University School of Medicine. His research was part of a report released today by the National Council for Behavioral Health titled Mass Violence in America: Causes, Impacts, and Solutions. Professor Swanson, welcome back to the NewsHour. I want to begin with what the president had said in the wake of this latest round of mass shootings. This is a quote. He said, "Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun." How should we understand the overlap between mental illness and people who perpetuate gun violence in America?
Well, mass shootings, I mean, we're just in this national nightmare. Everybody wants it to stop, and mass shootings are so frightening and so irrational, and we want an answer to why they happened. And what the president said is a very simple answer. It's mental illness. And I understand why he said that, because it resonates with what lots of people already believe about mental illness. But the facts are that the vast majority of people with mental illnesses are not violent towards other people. They never will be. And our report just released today would suggest that the prevalence of mental illness among perpetrators of mass shootings or mass violence is about the same as it is in the general population. So it's a very complex problem.
Let me ask you about something we've heard, though, from other people on the president's team as well, which is that, look, in order to be someone who carries out this kind of heinous attack, you have to be mentally ill in some way. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I understand that, too. You know, to say that someone who goes out and massacres a bunch of strangers, you know, I mean, that's not the act of a healthy mind. But it doesn't mean that they have one of the mental illnesses defined by psychiatrists as a disorder of thinking or mood, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or depression. Tens of millions of Americans have these illnesses, and the overwhelming majority of them are not violent towards other people. They love to have a conversation about improving mental health care. So a tool like this is focused not on mental illness, it's focused on behavioral indicators of risk. So, you know, if you're a neighbor and the person next door is acting in a really threatening, menacing way and is amassing firearms, in many states, there's nothing you can do about that if that person, you know, isn't criminally accused, hasn't done anything or committed a crime.
claim that the gun violence is a direct effect of mental illness is a knee-jerk reaction that is both inaccurate, it's simplistic, and it's absolutely unfounded in any kind of science research that we have. We do take this as a public health issue, and we have methodologies to address public health issues, and we should be applying that methodology to this problem, beginning with funding the CDC and the NIH for gun violence research. When we can do that and start finding out the factors that are actually involved, then we can start building real solutions to the problem. The data just does not support making a connection between mental illness and gun violence. So a recent FBI study has shown that of 63 shooters that they researched, only 25% of those had ever been diagnosed with a mental illness. And only 3 of those shooters, or less than 5%, had a psychotic disorder as a diagnosis. Again, the link to mental illness and gun violence just isn't there in the research that we have in hand. The idea that we would commit people that have mental disorders because they're a threat to society is, again, simply stigmatizing and not really addressing the problem of gun violence.